The Kansas Oil Museum in historic downtown El Dorado proudly displays over 140 years of Kansas history, antique vehicles, geology, natural history, or hands-on fun for all ages. Our 10-acre museum in historic Boomtown has something for everyone.
The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.
Brought to you by Central Security Group, your experts in home automation, security, and peace of mind. View video on your smartphone and control your home's lights, locks, heating, cooling, and more. Security app compatible with Apple Watch and Amazon Echo. It's time for Positively Kansas. Coming up.
I've definitely seen the traffic flow at farmers markets picking up. So people really do seem to appreciate kind of tapping back into their roots, eating like their grandparents did.
It's a hot trend in both the country and city. More and more Kansans are demanding locally produced food. Find out what's behind this homegrown movement. Also, 40 years in office? This small town mayor must be doing something right in the eyes of voters. Where does he get his passion for public service for what's often seen as a thankless job? The answer coming up. Plus, she may be small, but she's making a big impression on the rock music scene. Wait till you hear who this young Wichitan got to jam with on stage at a recent concert. And
I am not retired. I work full-time. I probably work more hours a week as an artist than I did as a veterinarian.
This Hutchinson woman gave up her veterinary practice to become a full-time artist. Find out where one of her paintings ended up and why it was such a coincidence. I'm Sierra Scott. Those are just some of the stories coming your way. Positively Kansas starts right now. Everything old is new again. A move is afoot for Kansans to produce more of their own fruits, vegetables, and meats. It's been seen as a way to enhance the rural economy and keep more food dollars from leaving the state. But as state officials and lawmakers have been mulling over tax incentives and policy changes, people across the Kansas countryside are taking matters into their own hands. Jim Grayway explains why the local food movement stirs so much passion.
Fruit and vegetable farming is probably the oldest kind of farming there is.
Bill and Betsy have been making a plan for their garden.
But we Midwesterners have gotten away from it because it's become so easy to buy produce imported from other parts of the country.
What's this? Henry's never seen anything like this before. Looks good, so he'll take 2.
Sure, we grow a lot of wheat, but Kansans now spend 90% of their food budgets on food grown by farmers in other states. That means a lot of money is leaving Kansas that could be staying here if more of our food came from here. The state has been studying how to make that happen. Meanwhile, growers like Jessica Nadd of Pratt are taking action now and preaching the power of homegrown produce.
It starts with people understanding that we need to get back into our kitchens. We need to be cooking not only what we're picking up from a farmer's market, from a community-supported agriculture system, or even from our own backyard. Getting that connection back to the earth, growing things in your own backyard and buying from people who are growing is going to give you that connection back to the land.
You name it, she grows it. What she and her family don't eat ends up here at one of the many farmers markets across the state. Nadd and several other community leaders were instrumental in reviving the farmers market in Pratt. Their opening weekend was May 13th. 20 vendors showed up for the event and a lot of buyers. It's a sign that the local food movement has hit Kansas. And it's not just fruits and vegetables. There are small-scale meat producers such as the Longs near Latham, Kansas. They sell direct to their fellow Kansans and can use environmental friendly as an added selling point.
My husband and I own Grace the Prairie grass-fed beef and lamb. We are located in the beautiful Flint Hills of Kansas. We are on native prairie grasses. We do not plant anything. We do not spray our pastures with any chemicals, any herbicides, pesticides. We never feed grain or concentrates. They are 100% grass-fed.
Meanwhile, Dale Family Farms near Protection, Kansas operates with a similar philosophy. The Dales emphasize soil health to grow the healthiest grass their cattle can possibly eat, and they eschew antibiotics and synthetic growth hormones. The Dales say their approach produces better flavor and nutrients in the beef and fowl they sell to Kansas families.
There is a big growth with people who want to know where their food comes from.
So, according to many of these homegrown foodies, the benefits of eating local go beyond just economics. But if we each bought $5 worth of food directly from a Kansas farmer each week, a recent study says that would be $750 million more in farm income. And that would translate into an extra $46 million a year in state revenue, $15 million for local and county governments.
If you want to get into politics, this may be your chance. And it's an opportunity that doesn't come along very often. After 40 years in office, Galva Mayor Wayne Ford says he's not running for re-election. He's believed to be the longest-serving mayor in America. Justin Kramer has details.
Wayne Ford works his cell phone outside City Hall in Galva, where he served as mayor, helping out his neighbors for 40 years.
One year just led on to another year, and it's just been a very prosperous operation for our city, for the people, and I'm just very delighted to been able to work with our community all these years.
Ford took over the top spot in Galva's government way back in 1977 after serving 4 years on the city council. It's a spot he's held ever since.
I just figured I would do a 2-year selection and, go on from there.
But year after year went by, Ford kept running and Galva kept electing him. He believes it's because he proved he was willing to listen and willing to help anyone who asked.
We say everybody's got a pothole and listen to what their complaints are. Not always can you satisfy everybody, but you're willing to listen.
And over those last 4 decades, the town has grown dramatically.
You have a close-knit community of just good, solid citizens that are willing to work hard and keep things up. And little by little, we begin to progress and expand one addition after another. And then now, we're a fairly modern little community of 900 people.
The most obvious difference, every street is now paved with concrete, a big improvement over the dirt paths that used to line the town.
You don't have that dust flying all over, and you're not in mud. It's just, you wouldn't be surprised what a sand street does versus a concrete street.
But while the town has grown, Ford says, unfortunately, so has apathy. Volunteer groups like Kiwanis aren't what they used to be. And he says one of the reasons he stayed on so long as mayor is because fewer and fewer people want to serve their communities in office.
Public service is not in the highest priority. Trying to get council members to run, to hold your community together, people to serve for a couple of years, and you think, well, hey, I'll groom this person to take my position one day, and then they're up and gone.
As far as what Ford will miss the most, the people who've helped make Galva the place it is today.
I think the biggest thing is the Christian atmosphere of our community. That, hey, we're a loving community and care about each other, and that's been the most rewarding thing for me.
For Positively Kansas, I'm Justin Kramer.
The election to replace Ford after 41 years as mayor will be held next year. So far, no candidates have stepped forward to replace him. The Kansan in this next story decided it was time to make a change, and her new career is really turning heads. Andy Hall has loved animals all her life. For more than 30 years, she worked as a veterinarian. Along the way, she became a self-taught artist too. Her specialty is painting pictures of animals and flowers. She recently left veterinary medicine to devote more time to her art.
I am not retired. I work full-time. I probably work more hours a week as an artist than I did as a veterinarian.
But Hall says it's a completely different kind of life, one she really enjoys.
It's a big responsibility to be caring for the lives of such important creatures. So that burden of responsibility weighs heavily on many veterinarians, and I think that for me, after more than 30 years of being responsible for those precious lives, I was ready to do something that was a little less serious.
Her painting, Paisley Paws Des Deux, was not only awarded Best of Show at the Prairie Art Exhibition in Sterling, it recently graced the cover of the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association just before her subscription ran out.
It was a really poignant and fitting issue because it just so happened, and this was completely serendipitous, that it was my last issue of the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association that my art was on.
Two of Hall's favorite paintings call attention to the endangered status of rhinos and elephants. Since she began selling her paintings online in 2013, Hall's work has been purchased by collectors from all over the US, Canada, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and even New Zealand. If you'd like to see more of Andy Hall's paintings, look for the link on the Positively Kansas page at kpts.org. This next story is about a musical artist who says it was a dream come true. She got to perform with a music legend. Before reaching the ripe old age of 10, Maddie Mullen of Wichita has accomplished and experienced things lifelong musicians would envy. But as Anthony Powell reports, music means much more than just bright lights and fame for this young rocker.
When you're a local musician, asked to play with internationally known iconic rocker Gene Simmons, you're gonna grab some headlines. But because Maddie Mullen, also known as ICT Rock Girl, was only 9 when she played alongside Simmons, the story became that much bigger. It all began when someone from Simmons' camp noticed Maddie playing in the venue's parking lot down in Bremen, Oklahoma. Soon, Maddie met Simmons.
And then he invited you out on stage. I mean, you had to be a little bit nervous playing with Gene Simmons, weren't you? Or?
I was incredibly nervous. I was just like, what if I mess up? Oh my gosh. I really want to make you happy with my work.
Simmons was all smiles as Maddie rocked on. While this may have been her most well-known performance, it was just one of many in Maddie's young, amazing career. Her grandfather, Jan Perez, a longtime Wichita musician, has been one of Maddie's biggest influences. She's played in his band Crazy Heart. Jan remembers the first time he introduced Maddie to his bandmates.
She started playing Gimme 3 Steps by Leonard Skinner, and you should have seen their heads, all three of them just turn their heads. Is this really coming out of this little girl?
Jan says when Maddie was just 1 year old, he could tell she was gifted just by the way she was able to keep a beat while listening to music and clapping along. But he never thought it would turn out like this.
I was just hoping that everything would be fine with her just growing up as a kid, but then this got thrown in, and man, it's just blown up really fast.
She's fearless.
Jordan Bowling is another veteran musician who never ceases to be amazed by Maddie. The two often get together to jam. Jordan's so blown away by her talent that he's had Maddie play with his group called The Band.
It's just pure energy, you know? She's up on stage in front of all these people, and like, she's not nervous, she's not shy, or at least if she is, it doesn't come across.
But as proud as Maddie's family and friends are of her musical talents, they are equally or more impressed with her intellect and insights. Sure, Maddie says she loves performing and the roar of the crowd, but even more important is helping people with her playing.
Music can tell you emotions and how you're feeling, and it can even make people more happy or about themselves or less insecure, because some people are really sad about themselves.
Maddie also says music has helped her overcome her shyness, and she's using that empowerment to be a role model to other young girls to show them it's not just boys who can play electric guitar. One thing she doesn't like is people wanting to be her friend because of her fame, when before they were mean to her.
You should be friends with everybody. You should treat everybody nicely and not be disrespectful to someone, because nobody has more value than you and nobody has less value than you. Everybody's valued the same.
As for the future, Maddie of course hopes it will include music. But she really doesn't want to move to a place like LA or New York or Nashville. She's fiercely loyal to Wichita and the opportunities she's had in the Air Capital, so this is where she'll stay. As for a plan B, she wants to go to WSU.
I want to be an engineer or a guitar builder.
Talent, intelligence, caring and kind. Maddie Mullen has it all, and despite her age, has already achieved so much. Her future, it would seem, is absolutely limitless. For Positively Kansas, I'm Anthony Powell.
As you might imagine, Maddie is in high demand. To find out about her upcoming performances, look for the link on the Positively Kansas page at kpts.org. Great performances have been the mainstay of Kansas playwright Joyce Markley's career, and one of the highlights has been her collaboration with a local military veteran. Now the two are hoping to work together once again, as Jim Grayway reports.
The story of the American soldier has been relevant generation after generation.
Hey, Buddy's here! Buddy! Hey, Buddy!
And Wichita playwright Joyce Markley has integrated that story into some of her most popular works.
I knew so many people that had been in service. They are just so giving. That's so big, it almost makes me cry sometimes when I think about what they went through.
What if you have to kill somebody, buddy? Really, honest. Lift up, aim, and pull the trigger.
This is a performance of Markley's play The Supper Table, performed at Butler Community College.
You use your two eyes wide. Stick that way. Blood starts oozing out.
It's the story of a Korean War veteran in the 1950s who returns to his family in Kansas. He encounters both personal and financial challenges as he tries to integrate back into civilian life.
Joyce gets it.
One of Markley's biggest fans is Army veteran Kevin McKelvey. McKelvey is a Wichita North High grad who starred in one of Markley's plays while he was serving in the reserves.
Kind of showed up. I knew that I wanted to get in the show. That's why I'd come back to Wichita. And, I auditioned, and I do remember the song I sang. It was kind of a tearjerker.
Like a ranger, so beaten by the storm, find some shelter, safe and warm. Like the child, so gripped by pride, find the glass that curves the fight. This man does come alive. Oh, come alive.
This led to a collaboration between Markley and McKelvey to write a new play together.
I told him I wanted to portray 4 military guys in a story. Would he like to help write it?
It was a story whose intent was to celebrate the military of all ages and of all services, and kind of acknowledge that common thread that if you've been a member of the fighting services at any time in history, in any service, there's certain things that you understand, and there's certain connections that you understand.
But the project hit a roadblock when McKelvey moved to New York and started a new career and family.
Life just takes some of those chances away, but I think I will write him and ask, do you think we could do a long distance thing? Maybe we ought to try it and see.
McKelvey says he's up for that and would love to resume work on the play and then bring it to life on stage.
When we started writing it, we thought, wow, it's really timely now. It's even more so now. I think that the polarization that has happened over the last few years, some of the challenges that have happened in the world over the last few years have made it even more timely.
If the project comes to fruition, it'll be the latest play bearing the name of this local playwright who has lived through a span of American history riddled with war and the stories of human triumph and tragedy that are the inevitable result. For Positively Kansas, I'm Jim Grayway.
One of the best parts of my job is I get to meet people that are absolutely incredibly talented because I'm not, so I get to share in their talent just by knowing them. I've known Brett Valiant for quite some time now. I don't even remember how many years. It's been a while.
Been a while.
But I will tell you, this man has played organ all over the world. He's one of the most talented organ players probably, I don't know, ever. You're just amazing. I've had the wonderful opportunity to play with you. You make me sound better than I actually am. But to talk about, let's talk a little bit about you and how you got started playing organ. How old were you?
Gosh, well, I was inspired to do it when I was probably about 3 years old, but I started playing piano when I was 4 and organ when I was, 6, 7, somewhere in there. So it's been a while.
What attracted you to the organ? What was interesting about it to you? Because I mean, that's really a young age to start it.
It is. When I first heard an organ, I was amazed that one person could make so many different sounds, like an orchestra, but it was just one person playing. And I was instantly attracted to that.
This organ, because you tried to get us there earlier, tell us about it. What makes it so special? Where was it found and how did it end up here?
This great Wurlitzer organ was built in 1926 for the New York Paramount Theater, which was in Times Square. And in the late 60s, it was taken out of the theater and brought here to Wichita, where Century 2 was being built, and it has really been in the building as long as the building's been open. So it's been here a long time, but this was the flagship Wurlitzer organ of the Wurlitzer company, who built theater organs all over the world.
Now, it was originally used to play along with silent movies,
films,
correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So who are some of the people that have played this organ that are kind of names that we might know?
Well, certainly the great famous silent film organist probably of all time, Gaylord Carter, who grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and then went off to California and had a great career. But he certainly came back many times and played this organ. Other people performed with this organ, like Frank Sinatra and Judy Garland, and this organ accompanied them at the New York Paramount Theater.
Now, we brought up Gaylord, but first, before we continue with the interview, I really want you to play something, because I want to hear, because I have never actually heard this organ played, and boy, to hear you play, it's going to be great. So would you please play something for us?
Absolutely.
Wow, I tell you what, that was amazing. And you couldn't see this, but I can't not dance. That was a fun song. That was amazing. And, you know, going back to Gaylord Carter, we actually have, because KPTS did a series called Lost Theaters of Kansas,
Right.
we have some video of Gaylord Carter actually playing. And so I wanted you to take a look at that. That was actually taken, the last performance at the Miller Theater, and it's really kind of interesting to look back at that. That's amazing to me to see that kind of history. What advice would you give to somebody out there who maybe wants to learn to play the organ? What would you tell them? Because it almost seems like a lost art now.
Yes, I would tell them that it is certainly not as mainstream as it once was. However, there are many areas where it's still needed and valued, and there's a place for anyone who wants to learn how to play.
And speaking of needed and valued, you actually play at a church here in Wichita.
I do.
So if you want to hear him, he's not there every Sunday because you're traveling a lot, but you are there quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Talk about how that happened, how long you've been playing there, and how that started.
Well, I started playing there when I was a teenager, thinking I would be there maybe a year, maybe two, who knew? And here we are about 19 years later, and I'm still at First United Methodist Church.
I love it. I think it's amazing. It's so fun to hear you play. And Brett, thank you.
Sure.
I mean, as a friend, I'm so grateful that you took time, because again, you're not in town much, that you took time out of your schedule to make this happen. Oh my gosh. And if you want a copy, we talked about the wonderful show. It was a documentary on KPTS, The Lost Theaters of Wichita. If you would like to get a copy, this is the information, and we look forward to seeing you on future Positively Kansas episodes. Have a great day. Brought to you by Central Security Group, your experts in home automation, security, and peace of mind. View video on your smartphone and control your home's lights, locks, heating, cooling, and more. Security app compatible with Apple Watch and Amazon Echo.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.